Why NASA is hurrying to the moon. Artemis versus ILRS 2026. The new space race isn't about flags, it's about water. See how the US Artemis program and the China-Russia ILRS are fighting for the Lunar South Pole. In this deep dive, we analyze the two diametrically opposed philosophies of 21st century moon exploration. While NASA's Artemis relies on a high-risk sprint supported by commercial partners like SpaceX and Blue Origin, the International Lunar Research Station, ILRS, is playing a decade-long marathon driven by autonomous robotic construction. Key topics covered: strategic water ice, why the South Pole is the ultimate gas station for Mars; sprint versus marathon, comparing Western commercial agility to centralized state planning; survival tech, the race to build lunar nuclear power plants for the 14-day night.
All right, everyone, settle in. Roll cameras, and action! I want full steam from the locomotive as it crosses the bridge.
The space race of the 21st century focuses entirely on structural permanence. Global powers are designing infrastructure for a continuous human presence in the 2030s. Both sides have locked onto the exact same target, the Lunar South Pole. This specific region holds immense value because its permanently shadowed craters trap abundant water ice. That ice provides the foundational resources for life support and the chemical components for rocket fuel. Extracting local fuel creates a rigid strategic reality. Controlling this ice is a requirement for any nation planning to launch heavy missions toward Mars. Whoever builds sustainable infrastructure at the South Pole first dictates the terms of deep space exploration. This map shows the two massive global coalitions converging on this exact real estate. In one color, the US-led Artemis program. In the contrasting color, the China and Russia-led International Lunar Research Station, or ILRS. Artemis relies on a high-risk sprint strategy. The United States uses commercial partnerships to put human boots on the surface as quickly as possible. The ILRS takes a different path. It operates as a methodical, state-driven marathon that mandates a full decade of autonomous robotic construction before humans ever arrive. Western commercial agility is now in a direct head-to-head with centralized state planning to determine who claims these resources first. Evaluating these programs requires looking past the political rhetoric. These are two diametrically opposed operational philosophies, attempting to solve the exact same engineering problem. This photograph shows the diplomatic foundation of the Western approach. The Artemis program is governed by the Artemis Accords, a multilateral framework integrating over 60 nations. By spreading the effort across this massive coalition, the United States shares the enormous funding burden, while establishing Western-led legal norms for space exploration. However, coordinating timelines and budgets across dozens of independent international space agencies introduces incredibly significant diplomatic and bureaucratic friction. The opposing global bloc positions itself as a multipolar alternative, co-led by China and the Russian space agency Roscosmos. The ILRS uses a highly centralized structure, with decision-making managed by a single organization headquartered in China. The trade-off is a much narrower global footprint. The ILRS structure primarily attracts nations seeking a specific alternative to Western leadership in space. The massive global consensus behind Artemis is its greatest financial asset, but also its biggest bureaucratic vulnerability when compared to the tightly controlled ILRS. This comparison matrix tracks milestones side by side. Artemis prioritizes early crewed missions, aiming to put humans on the surface as soon as possible. NASA plans a rapid human landing by early 2028, with base camp construction beginning shortly after. Moving quickly requires high upfront investment and carries risk to human life. The ILRS timeline relies on a strict robotic-to-human transition. Between 2026 and 2035, 5 uncrewed missions will build the site. These probes will autonomously assemble the base's physical infrastructure, delaying human occupation until at least 2036. By keeping humans out of the equation during the construction phase, the ILRS is ceding the psychological and prestige advantage of the first humans back entirely to the Artemis coalition. Artemis prioritizes immediate geopolitical momentum through human risk, while the ILRS accepts a delayed human footprint to ensure architectural safety. The supply chains for these bases reflect entirely different philosophies. The Artemis program relies heavily on private sector innovation and commercial payload contracts. NASA is leveraging rapid, iterative private sector engineering to build out its base modules and deliver human landers like SpaceX's Starship. This commercial reliance extends to the exact vehicles astronauts will use to move and survive on the surface, like the hardware developed by Blue Origin. This leaves NASA exposed to corporate realities. Any private sector bottlenecks, sudden funding shifts, or commercial market failures immediately threaten the Artemis timeline. The ILRS relies on state-developed architectures, conceptualizing their base across 5 distinct facilities designed by governments. Because humans won't arrive for a decade, state-built hardware is designed from the ground up for total robotic autonomy. The base must be able to operate for years without human life support systems. This rigid state framework guarantees absolute control over the architecture, but it lacks the speed and cost-saving breakthroughs generated by free market competition. Artemis has outsourced its critical path to private corporations, whereas the ILRS maintains total state control over its supply chain, sacrificing innovation speed. Despite these conflicting philosophies, both alliances eventually face the exact same hostile reality on the lunar surface. The highest shared engineering hurdle is surviving the extreme cold of the 14-day lunar night. During this period, solar power is no longer an option. To keep their bases functioning in the dark, both Artemis and the ILRS are racing to engineer automated space nuclear power plants. It is the only viable solution to maintain life support and power. Second, both programs must master in-situ resource utilization. They need to extract fuel, but they also must process local lunar dirt to build physical shielding against radiation and micrometeoroids. This quadrant chart maps both programs against their deployment speed and reliance on autonomy. Artemis is positioned as a high-speed sprint, accepting low early autonomy. The ILRS is a slow marathon, trading immediate speed for methodical, high-autonomy construction. Advisory tone. For those tracking the global space race, the most critical window to watch is 2026 to 2028. If Western commercial partners stumble or fail to deliver on those aggressive timelines, the patient, robotic-first strategy of the ILRS is positioned to quietly and permanently claim the South Pole's resources.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this, make sure to like and follow and hit subscribe for more great content. Thanks for watching.